At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes, at the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today, and let us surprise you.
Respect is a tricky word. When you say to somebody, you have to respect me, or you have to respect my boundaries, that's too psychobabbly for me. Respect, I think what the aunt probably means is that she doesn't want her niece to yell at her, to say rude things, to tell her to jump in the lake, whatever she says. Maybe it's worse than that. What you want to do is don't get hung up on this idea of respect. Get hung up on the idea of when I ask you to do something, then I need you to do it.
Welcome to Season 8 of Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we talk about managing worry, anxiety, and all the other emotions too.
I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, author, speaker, and mom. I've been a therapist for 35 years, and I'm still in the trenches with families, helping them navigate daily struggles and big problems. Parenting can be a flusterclux, but we tackle the serious stuff without being too serious.
I'm Robin. I'm Lynn's sister-in-law and co-host, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Ed, the producer of Flusterclux.
And my brother.
And my husband.
Anxiety is a family problem with a family solution.
We got a listener question about ODD.
Yeah.
And I had to write back and say, did you mean OCD? Because I didn't know if it was autocorrect.
And when I read your listener question, my brain turned it into OCD.
Right. So it was ODD. That was not a typo. And ODD is a diagnosis. So I Googled it quickly and looked it up and learned that it stood for oppositional defiant disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me start thinking about all that you talk about diagnoses. And before we get to the listener question, you have a very strong relationship with diagnoses and how they're used and when they are total crap and when they are helpful and when they are not. And I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to talk about that because your opinions, I've learned about this, extend far beyond just ODD. Like this is about all diagnoses, and our young people right now love diagnoses.
Yep. So it's not all or nothing. It's not black and white because there are certain diagnoses that are really helpful for kids and for families to understand what's going on. And the prime example of that is OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, because if you've got a kid with OCD, if you've got a kid with intrusive thoughts, if you've got kids who you're trying to figure out what the heck is going on with them, and you don't know what OCD is, or you think that OCD is, you have to have your books aligned or you have to have your Oreos stacked correctly, it is very, very helpful for somebody to say, this is OCD, this is what it does, this is how it looks, and this is why you're not going crazy. And this is why your child is engaging in some pretty weird looking behaviors because this is what OCD does. So in that case, having that diagnosis can be so explanatory and clarifying. I think the same thing happens with ADHD. I think when kids get good evaluations and we determine that they're on the spectrum, it just explains a lot and it helps kids understand the way that their brains work and some of the experiences or the difficulties that they're having. If we look at anxiety diagnoses, I don't really care all that much which diagnosis you have, and plus they overlap a lot.
And you mean just to clarify, because there's social anxiety disorder, separation anxiety disorder, right?
Right. Generalized anxiety disorder. You're an equal opportunity worrier. Whatever comes across your screen, you're worried about. Those diagnoses really point to the thing that makes you worry, the content that makes you worried. So if you have separation anxiety, you're worried about being separate from the people that you love. If you have social anxiety, it means that you really have difficulty in social situations because you fear judgment. If you have a specific phobia, that means that thing, be it a bumblebee or vomiting or thunder or cauliflower, makes you anxious, gets you going, and then you avoid that thing. And oftentimes when kids have anxiety, those diagnoses, the content jumps around. Sometimes you really settle on one, but doesn't really matter to me all that much. And then depression, of course. So depression is a real thing. People get depressed. We want to understand what they're struggling with. We want to know what the best ways of treating depression are. We want to know that people have depressive episodes. It is very common in life to have a depressive episode. I don't like the disease model of depression. I don't like the language that's used of you have this chemical imbalance, which if you've listened to me before, the science doesn't back that up. So I want people to understand what's going on with them, and I want them to be able to figure out what are the patterns that we need to interrupt and what are the things we need to learn in order to get out of these patterns. Or even if you do have OCD or ADHD or autism, there are things you can learn that can help you live with that disorder. Then there are these other diagnoses that come and go, that become popular, that find their way into our culture. And they are oftentimes descriptions of behavioral patterns. They are oftentimes not even diagnoses. And they are often pretty pejorative, meaning that when we lay this diagnosis on a young person, that people will see them in a certain way and that people will even then define themselves in a certain way. ODD is one of those diagnoses.
Well, you mentioned how things kind of come and go. It's been interesting to learn from you as a non-mental health practitioner that there are trends in your field.
Super duper trends. Yeah.
So things might be like, everyone's got this. And then like it sort of goes away. Well, it's like, well, do people just no longer have it anymore? No, it's no longer in fashion to assign the label.
Correct. And it also happens to do with, remember that we're always pumping out new therapists. So new young therapists are coming into the field. It just oftentimes is determined by what trainings they go to, what's going on. So a very good example of that is borderline personality disorder, which was super, super popular in the late 80s and 90s when I was a new young social worker, fell out of favor, sort of replaced actually by bipolar, which may or may not be an accurate diagnosis. And now it's back in. I've had a few teenagers recently come in and tell me that they have BPD, they're calling it. And it's all about what they're seeing on TikTok. ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, is a description of behavior in which kids have a really hard time with following instructions. They're very combative. They can be aggressive. They have a really hard time with authority. These are the kids that if you look back, if you remember when you were in school, there was that kid that was kind of scary and would yell back at the teacher or would flip over their desk. And so that became a diagnosis. There are many, many clinicians that I know, very well-known, very skilled clinicians that work with children that hate this diagnosis because it is basically a description of behavior. And when we look at ODD, and I think it's going to go away soon, actually, I think it's probably going to disappear in one of the next diagnostic manuals. It doesn't really describe, it doesn't really help you figure out what a child is struggling with. It really just describes behavior. And if you work in a school or if you work in a residential program and you see that a kid has a diagnosis of ODD, that kid, whether they'll admit to it or not, that kid is labeled. That kid is seen as a behavior issue. And oftentimes is seen as a bad kid. And we really need to look deeper or further or more holistically, more systemically into what a child is going through when they're having those kinds of behaviors. Because there's often a lot going on.
We did an episode that I was thinking about where when you sort of try and get the family to shift away from the diagnosis and put so much emphasis on the diagnosis and really think about things. And the danger of that is that the family starts expecting the behaviors to be permanent because they're like, that's just the way it is. Sometimes that's the case, but not with everything.
Right. And oftentimes it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. One of the early parenting things that I talked about, and I remember doing a workshop with my friend Christine, and she was so good at talking about this, was don't label your child even as like, well, she's the shy one, or he's the clown in the family, or he's the baby of the family, or he's the artist, or he's the scientist, because they hear these labels and they take them on. But of course, a child would much rather be labeled the scientist in the family than the oppositional defiant disorder in the family, except of course, if that scientist discovers that they maybe want to be an actor, or maybe they want to be a poet, and maybe science isn't where they want to spend the rest of their lives. So we have to be really careful how we label children. And if you are a professional and you are working with a child, if you take your child to get evaluated, if there is somebody with some credibility and they put this label on your child, it is really hard for some of these labels to go away. And if a child sees themselves through that lens, then the expectations of themselves and the expectations that other people have of the child, they shift. It's a bias, I think, that we aren't even doing it on purpose, but it really has an impact on kids for sure.
When we come back, let's go through that listener question and talk about ODD.
All right. I have been a user of Masterclass for many, many years now. And one of the things I love is that when I go and look at the website, there's some new classes that just immediately grab my attention. I can't wait to watch them. Anna Lemke, who's amazing, has this great new class on dopamine called Take Your Brain Back. She is an incredibly knowledgeable person, a great writer, a great speaker. You will learn so much about how your brain works and how dopamine gets in the way. And there's a new class. I haven't even watched it yet. It's brand new. It's with Cal Newport. It's about rebuilding your focus and reclaiming your time. Okay, yeah, I need to rebuild my focus. I've been noticing that recently. There is something for everybody here, and it really is just so fabulous to learn how people do things well. With Masterclass, you learn from the best to become your best. They have plans starting at $10 a month, billed annually. You get unlimited access to over 200 classes taught by the world's best, the best business leaders, writers, chefs, and more. You can listen to them while you're commuting. You can listen to them while you're out walking, like I often do. Wherever you are, on your phone, your laptop, even your TV, Masterclass goes with you. There's no risk. Every membership comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. I'm headed out on a trip soon. I'm going to be on an airplane for a long time. I'm going to download the classes that I want to watch offline so that I can make the most of sitting on an airplane. Right now, our listeners get an additional 15% off any annual membership at masterclass.com/fluster. That's 15% off at masterclass.com/fluster. masterclass.com/fluster. I did a huge clean out of my closet a few months ago. I just want to focus on pieces that I'm going to wear that are of high quality that I really love. For example, I just got the Mongolian cashmere beanie and matching gloves from Quince. Quince makes high quality wardrobe staples, and I want premium fabrics. I want organic cotton. I want Mongolian cashmere. I want also to use companies like Quince that work directly with safe, ethical factories. They cut out the middlemen. So you're not paying for brand markup or fancy retail stores. You're just paying for quality clothing. Quince is consistently rated 4.5 to 5 stars by their thousands of customers, real people wearing these pieces every day and actually loving them, like me. So stop waiting to build the wardrobe you actually want. You don't need a closet full of options. Get rid of the stuff that's not good quality that you don't wear and spend your money smartly and ethically to fill your closet full of beautiful, high quality pieces. Right now, go to quince.com/fluster for free shipping and 365-day returns. That's a full year to wear it and love it. And you will. Now available in Canada, too. Don't keep settling for clothes that don't last. Go to quince.com/fluster for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/fluster. Well, it's tax season. Oh, this is one of those times when you're really looking at the big picture of of your finances. You're seeing where your money's going, figuring out what your tax refund is going to be. The goal is to make progress with your money, not just look back and wonder where it all went. Simplify your finances with Monarch. Monarch is the all-in-one personal finance tool designed to make your life easier. It brings your entire financial life, budgeting, accounts and investments, net worth, and future planning together in one dashboard on your phone or laptop. Feel aware and in control of your finances this tax season and get 50% off your Monarch subscription with code FLUSTER. Monarch gives you a complete picture. So when I'm using Monarch to see where my money is going, I can see what my budget is. I can see what debt I have. I'm paying attention to savings goals. The goal is to not feel badly when you look at your budget and your money progress. We want to make progress, not feel regret. Instead of tracking expenses and feeling bad about your spending, wouldn't you rather feel good? Wouldn't you rather feel like you're hitting those real milestones, that you're actually doing something for your own future? Unlike most other personal finance apps, Monarch is built to make you proactive, not just reactive. Achieve your financial goals for good with Monarch, the all-in-one tool that makes money management simple. Use code FLUSTER at monarch.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off at monarch.com, code FLUSTER. Okay, we're back.
Okay, Lynn, this is a listener question that has prompted this episode. I'm hoping you might be able to offer insight involving my niece. This is funny. This is an episode I got to tell you. Like, I'm originally from the South, and now I live up here in New England. And everyone in New England says aunt. But where I'm from, everyone says aunt. So I'm kind of curious. I feel like I should say aunt, and you could say aunt for the purpose of a broader regional understanding. How's that?
Okay, I got it. Yeah, but also people up here say auntie.
People I know who say auntie, usually like they're from another culture where auntie is like the form of respect of what you would say to like an older woman in the family or like a close friend. So like all of your mom's friends are aunties, even if they're not blood.
Okay. But we said Auntie Maureen and Auntie Lois.
Interesting.
Yeah. We said auntie, and we're like, this is the Irish Catholic side of the family. Yeah. So, well, it's an aunt, an aunt. Go ahead. You say what you want, Robin.
Okay, I'll try.
You let your Tulsa come out. Just let it come out.
Okay. Olivia is 11 years old and she was adopted at 5 days old. Her birth mother struggled with addiction and used drugs throughout pregnancy. She has 2 older siblings who are also adopted. Olivia was diagnosed with ADHD and ODD about 3 years ago. She has always struggled with school and strongly resists going. She is often at the maximum number of absences allowed. Last year, her mom and my sister was diagnosed with cancer, and the illness progressed quickly, and she passed away in 2025. During the illness, she was mostly homebound, and the cancer caused significantly physical changes to her face, which was very hard on her emotionally. She understandably needed a lot of support from her husband. During that time, the kids received very little structure or discipline, and their emotional needs were often on the back burner. They were also rarely allowed to leave the house. Olivia began puberty extremely early, and doctors told us her body appears to be about 4 years ahead of her chronological age. So since my sister's passing, Olivia's behaviors become extremely difficult. She's frequently rude, highly defensive, and talks back to adults. She argues about nearly everything and often says, "This is just the way I am." She struggles to take responsibility and tends to blame others. At the same time, I know there is a beautiful soul underneath all of this. She's strikingly beautiful, sensitive, and capable of being sweet in calmer moments. Her dad is a good man and like a little brother to me, but he's grieving deeply and he tends to be quiet and not very communicative. And I've suggested counseling for Olivia multiple times, including grief counseling, but nothing's happened. So I recently stayed with the kids for a week while he was away. The first few days were okay, and the last 3 nights included several major outbursts. I truly want to help Olivia and support her dad, but I don't know how to handle the behavior in the moment. My questions are, How should adults respond to ODD behavior combined with grief and trauma? How can I hold boundaries around respect without escalating the situation? What kinds of support or therapy should we be pushing for given her early trauma, her ADHD, and the loss of her mom? And what role can I realistically play when the parent is grieving and overwhelmed?
So that's a big one, isn't it?
It is.
There's a few things. One is that this 11-year-old, I think we can all empathize with because she's gone through it, right? She lost her mom, her dad going through the loss of his wife, trying to raise 3 kids while the cancer was obviously progressing. And Olivia was diagnosed at age 8 with ADHD and ODD. Now that's interesting to me because when we look at kids that are diagnosed with ADHD, a huge part of what we want to pay attention to is the fact that they really have some delays in their ability to manage themselves and their emotions and their relationships. And if we look at an 8-year-old who's diagnosed with ADHD, who's having trouble getting to school, and for the last few years has really been kind of left on her own to manage the loss of her mom, a dad that's overwhelmed. They've never gotten what they need to help Olivia and to help them as parents navigate these diagnoses. So I can see why this aunt has sort of arrived in this place, and I can see why it feels so overwhelming to everybody.
Well, it's almost like there's two huge things going on for any family, and these are overlapping. A cancer event that has completely consumed the adults. It is a horrible thing to go through. There is so much grief around what the family went through. And then even if this mother was still healthy, this child still has obstacles and needs a lot of intervention.
Correct. So this is one of those times where I say, and I mean this, but it doesn't sound very helpful, is that the good news is they haven't done anything yet. And the reason I say that's good news is because it's not like they're saying, we've had her see so many people and trying to figure out how to manage her behavior, and we've tried everything and nothing works, and we've tried medication, we've tried therapy, we sent her away to a program for kids with ADHD, and nothing works. What I'm hearing is they haven't really done anything yet. And even though she's 11 is still really, really little. And even though she went through puberty earlier, which complicates things with all the hormonal stuff that goes on with puberty, that it is not too late for this little person. It's sad that she says, well, this is just who I am, because she's not nearly finished in her growth and development. So to answer the questions that this loving aunt has, one is that you really want to learn about ADHD, and you want to learn about what we call cognitive rigidity. Cognitive rigidity shows up in anxiety, in depression, in OCD, in autism, in ADHD. And it really just describes how stuck we get when things don't go the way we want or need them to go. And then we lash out, we withdraw, people get really stubborn, they dig their heels in. It's very, very common for kids with ADHD to be argumentative and to get overwhelmed when things don't go the way they want them to go and when they feel like they can't handle what life is throwing at them. And life has thrown a lot at little Olivia. So if there haven't been consistent expectations, if there haven't been routines, if there haven't been rules or values that this family follows, then we can absolutely expect that Olivia is just trying to get through, that Olivia is fighting for her life here, that she is overwhelmed and she doesn't have the language or even the understanding of how she's supposed to manage all of these big, incredibly devastating changes that she's had to go through. And dad's kind of checked out. And she needs her dad, and her dad hasn't been able to be there. No judgment, a hard thing to go through, of course. And so this aunt is stepping in. What I would strongly, strongly recommend is that this family focus on 3 things. 1, on connection. So as often as this aunt can do things with Olivia, small things count, stay in touch, go and spend time with her, have her over for a sleepover, take her out to breakfast, connection, connection, connection with a huge dose of warmth. The wonderful thing that this aunt is describing is that she sees qualities in Olivia that maybe other people don't see. She recognizes that there is a little person in there that can be sweet and caring and calm and lovely. And we want her to talk to Olivia. You know, we don't have to lay it on too thickly, but she needs to hear from her aunt that this is not who she is. And she needs to be fed a steady diet of, there are different parts of you, including this rigid reactive part, but also there's this really calm, sweet, creative, loving part too. So connection and warmth. The other thing I would focus on are very consistent expectations. So the words that I would convey to these parents, to the aunt and to the dad, is that you need to be solid, you need to be steady, you need to be clear about what the expectations are, and you need to really be non-reactive. Kids like this push your buttons. They know what to say. They are good at getting a rise out of adults. They are used to being punished. The thing about ODD as a diagnosis is that it's often seen as a behavioral problem. And so these kids are giving consequences. These kids are punished a lot, and it doesn't teach them the skills that they need. So if you go into it thinking she doesn't know how to do the things yet that we want her to learn how to do, it allows you to be more compassionate and you to be more connected. So when I'm talking about being clear and steady, one of the skills is that you set the expectations for her in the home. So there are certain things, and I've talked about this before, when kids feel like they're contributing, when kids feel like they're doing things that are helpful and meaningful, it really helps their self-esteem. It really helps their sense of worth. So there need to be expectations, and those expectations need to be presented in a very clear and consistent way. So maybe as simple as, Olivia, it is your responsibility to set the table before dinner, or it is your responsibility to bring your clothes down for the laundry, or it's your responsibility. We don't want to go overboard. She's 11 and she's behind. So even though her body is speeding up, developmentally, she's not where we want her to be. So we want to have clear expectations. You say the expectation. Kids with ADHD like to fight. They like to negotiate. They like to argue. They like to push buttons. They like to get into it. So aunt and dad need to know that you set the expectation and that you don't get into the verbal stuff with her. The thing that was interesting, read the question, Robin, about respect so that we can hear that again.
How can I hold boundaries around respect without escalating the situation?
Okay, let's just make that really concrete. Respect is a tricky word. When you say to somebody, you have to respect me, or you have to respect my boundaries, that's too psychobabbly for me. Respect, I think what the aunt probably means is that she doesn't want her niece to yell at her, to say rude things, to tell her to, jump in the lake, whatever she says. Maybe it's worse than that. What you want to do is don't get hung up on this idea of respect. Get hung up on the idea of, when I ask you to do something, then I need you to do it. And I'm going to hold the line without reactivity, without taking what this girl says personally, without getting caught up in all of the content or the details or the language or the words or the history. You're going to be a steady person. So for example, Olivia, I need you to bring your dishes over. or Olivia, I need you to go to bed, or Olivia, I need you to go up and take a shower, whatever the expectations are. And she says, I'm not taking a shower. You can't tell me what to do. You're not in charge of me. You're just this stupid lady hanging out at my house. I hate you. I'm not going to do what you say. You don't react, and you say, the expectation is that you go and take your shower, and I'm holding you to that expectation. If you get into arguing with her about the words that she said, or the tone of her voice, or the way she stomped up the stairs to go take the shower, you're just going to be arguing with her and debating with her. And that's what they get into. That's what they like to do. So don't pick up the rope. Don't take the bait. Clear, consistent expectations, absolutely sprinkled with, or frosted with, or marinated in language of warmth and connection. So you just throw in comments like, oh my gosh, I love those shoes you're wearing. You have such a fantastic sense of style, Olivia. I'm just saying, look for opportunities to compliment her and to let her know that she's awesome.
Or that something she did had real meaning to you, or touched you, or all of those positive affirmations of like how much you love her, how much you care about her.
Remember, when I'm talking about the adverse childhood experiences, this is an episode we did a long time ago.
I was thinking about that. Definitely needs to listen to that episode.
Right. I mean, she's gone through some significant trauma. She's grieving the loss of her mom. But one of the things that really helped in the research was having 2 non-parental adults who really accept you for who you are and love you and appreciate you. I always say the person who your eyes light up when they walk in the room. And when I go to schools, I talk about that. If there's a little kid who's just sort of lost in some way, we've got to find some adults who are just going to be delighted with them. So pay attention to that. I highly, highly suggest that this aunt and the dad, they learn about ADHD from somebody who is great at explaining how to deal with this kind of oppositional behavior. And Ryan Wexelblatt, ADHD dude, if you go on Facebook and look him up, he's got incredible content. He's got programs for parents. He is so concrete, and he would be enormously helpful to any of you who are listening to this and you've got a kid with ADHD and you're having trouble with the behavioral stuff. Ryan's your guy. So check him out. And I would strongly, strongly recommend that these 2 adults learn about this. This dad, I mean, if I were talking to the dad, and maybe aunt, you have your brother-in-law listen to this episode, this has been incredibly difficult. And figuring out what to do just under the best of circumstances after you lose your wife is so, so hard. Figuring out what to do to parent a little girl who's been struggling for a long time must feel overwhelming. So you need solid skills, you need instruction, you need direction. This woman also asked what kind of therapy should they be seeking out for Olivia. I would not, and I repeat, not put Olivia in therapy by herself with someone who doesn't have a lot of skill dealing with families with ADHD and somebody who sees her behind closed doors without including the dad. This dad needs a lot of support, a lot of coaching, a lot of language. He needs very, very clear instructions and doing a type of therapy that really focuses on, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm about to sound, but I really don't think doing a therapy that allows Olivia to play with a caring adult or talk to a caring adult that doesn't include or focus on what these adults need in order to consistently deal with her behavior, I think would be a waste of time and money. And I wouldn't do that. There are also a lot of great resources that parents can learn about to help grieving children, to help themselves. And I would recommend checking into some of that, but I would really focus on getting some good parent support to help Olivia understand that she is not this oppositional, defiant human being, that she is a child who needs help learning So really needs therapy that concretely helps these parents know what to do and what not to do, how to respond consistently, and to really work on connection in an environment of non-reactivity. That's what I would recommend. Forget about the respect thing for now. That'll come down the line. But this is about being solid and clear and consistent, holding the line, and really focusing on throwing in big doses of warmth and connection. It's not too late for this little girl, and I would really get rid of that ODD diagnosis as quickly as I could. It's not going to be helpful.
We'll take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the more optimistic message of how do you transition a diagnosis conversation with a teenager.
I've been paying so much more attention to the products that I use on my skin lately. It's probably because I'm getting older, and also it's the winter here in New Hampshire. So boy, if you're going to look wrinkly, you're going to look wrinkly in New Hampshire in the winter. I've been so enjoying the Osea products. I love the anti-aging Osea Dream Night Cream. I mean, like slathering it on my face. But I'll tell you, the Osea's Undario Algae Body Oil, it's one of their best sellers for a reason. It was a 2025 Allure Best of Beauty winner. It feels so good. I put it on right out of the shower. My skin is just a little bit wet. I didn't used to use body oil when I was younger, but I'll tell you now, it feels fantastic. I put it on, I get dressed, my skin feels and looks better. It's less wrinkly. These products are clinically tested, and they are designed to deliver visible results. It's really become part of my skin ritual. They've done studies with women age 25 to 65, and 100% showed a significant improvement in moisturization and skin elasticity. 100% agreed that the skin looked firmer and less crepey. I'm looking for less crepey. And 100% agreed that their skin felt softer and smoother and more supple. I'm in that 100%. So get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now we have a special discount just for our listeners. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FLUSTER at OseaMalibu.com.
We're leaving today and entering a world of Mickey Mouse waving, princess meeting and greeting, lightsaber clashing, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror dropping, Banshee flying, Space Mountain launching, galaxy rewinding. What's the point with galaxy rewinding? Fireworks igniting. World of other worlds. For whatever you love. Infinite worlds await at the most magical place on Earth. Walt Disney World Resort.
From athletic stuff like a full-court pickup game, swish, to athletic-ish stuff like a half-mile stroll. Get those steps in. Head to Sierra or Sierra.com for the brands you want at the prices that let you do it all. From athletic to athletic-ish, Sierra's got it.
Okay, so now back to the show.
So Lynn, can we unpack, if you haven't listened to an episode, listeners out there, about skills and what that actually means? It's such a game changer to really understand, because it's not academic skills we're talking about. It's not skipping and hopping on the report card that kindergartners are assessed on. These are emotional skills that everybody is always working on. No one always masters them.
Mm-hmm.
And our personalities are really a combination of our current state of our skills. That's what I like to think of. We are malleable people, and we can practice and learn skills, and we can strengthen skills. Therefore, nothing is permanent.
Correct. And when you say emotional skills, I would add to that, equally important are relational skills, and they're very closely connected. So if we're talking about the skills that Olivia probably needs to learn, I would start with her probably emotional literacy, which is she probably doesn't have a very good ability to put words to her feelings because they probably haven't talked about them. So she probably needs to be able to say, I feel sad, or I feel disappointed, or I feel frustrated. And she needs to have those feelings normalized for her. And then what do you do when you have those feelings? Because the huge skill that we have in the world that she's going to need to learn is the ability to do something when she doesn't feel like it, the ability sometimes to determine what thoughts she shares and what thoughts she doesn't based on where she is and who she's with. The ability to be cognitively flexible, which means how do we manage? How do we problem solve? How do we figure out what to do when things don't go our way? And the ability to interact with people in a way that allows her to put herself in their shoes, which is what empathy is, which we can teach empathy. It's perspective taking, which we teach to kids that are, well, we teach it to all kids, but kids that are on the spectrum, kids that have ADHD. The ability to pause before she is about to move into something or do something or say something. The ability to take a break, the ability to step back, all of these skills, if you listen to those skills that I just listed, those are the skills that you as a successful adult put into place every day. Keeping your mouth shut when you should keep your mouth shut. Knowing what you're feeling, understanding what you're feeling, and normalizing that feeling. Being able to problem solve or tolerate things not going your way. Recognize that sometimes your behavior is getting on somebody else's nerves. All of these things are so emotional/relational, and they allow you to get along with other people. They allow you to connect with other people. We did an episode on likability a while ago. I remember when we did that episode, I was like, oh, should we use the word likability, Robin? And you said, yeah, everybody knows what that word means. These are the skills that we need to talk to kids about who are having difficulty in this social realm. She's having difficulty because she is explosive and disrespectful, in air quotes, and combative when she's trying to engage and interact with other people.
Can you give context for this? You just listed a bunch of skills, and then you said we adults know these skills, and that's not always true.
Well, I said you as a functional adult have these skills.
Right. Dysfunctional adults don't. If we start thinking about these skills, it's not that you get to truly check them off the list because we fall down, we make mistakes, but the concept of certain skills that are really troubling for one person that are causing the most interrelational chaos or prevention of connection, pulling out and calling those skills by name and talking about how this skill, if you could have redone this conversation with this skill, what would that have looked like? And so it's teaching. And this is why if people wanted to watch Love on the Spectrum, there is proof that kids on the spectrum learn a variety of beautiful interrelational skills that are not intuitive to them.
Right. That approach to helping kids on the spectrum and adults on the spectrum is so transferable because really they were the people who began to understand autism and do such great work with autism were saying, we just need to concretely teach these skills. So a good example would be, say with Olivia, say she gets explosive, or say when you ask her to do something, she gets combative or she immediately responds. We can talk about the automatic refusal. I talk about the automatic no, the automatic refusal. And you would say to Olivia, okay, so here's what often happens. I'll ask you to do something that's not really unreasonable. That's a part of being in this family. You don't necessarily want to do it. I get it. Emptying the dishwasher is not an exciting chore. And very quickly, you automatically refuse, probably without even thinking about it, because it doesn't feel like a fun thing to do, or you're in a bad mood. So we're going to practice when I ask you to do something. You may come up with your automatic refusal. I'm going to point that out. There's your automatic refusal. And then I'm going to have you practice, and I'm going to practice too, just giving you a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes to think about how you're going to do this thing, like emptying the dishwasher. Give yourself, if you need to walk around, if you need to have a drink of water first, if you need to go do 20 jumping jacks, and then come back again and do the thing that I ask you to do. So I'm going to ask you to do something. You're going to feel annoyed and frustrated. You're going to have an automatic no. You're going to have an automatic rejection. I'm not going to get into it with you. We're going to take a beat and you're going to take some time and come back and we're going to try it again. But you will empty the dishwasher. It just may take you some time to practice doing something you don't feel like doing instead of me reacting and responding and freaking out about your automatic rejection.
I think all parents listening to this I learned something new tonight. I love it when I learn the new stuff. I really love the way you framed, there's your automatic rejection. And then earlier in the episode, you were talking about our expectation is that you do this. In both of those moments, you're able to be a parent and stay rooted in your own calm voice because you're not emotionally reacting while you're communicating it. You're just saying it. Like, that's such a great tool to use that therapists are very good at. That's a great thing. I think a lot of us took notes.
Well, it's very hard not to take things personally. And kids with ADHD and kids that are struggling and kids that haven't had practice with this, they can get you going. I mean, it's really easy. They push your button. So you ask your child to do something and they say, oh, really? You suck as a parent. Every other parent in my class is better than you. You're the worst parent ever. You think I'm going to listen to you? Oh my gosh. It's so hard to not want to defend yourself, to say, don't you be disrespectful to me, or how dare you say that? Do you know what I do for you? Blah, blah, blah. And also, you know what? You think I'm a bad parent? Whatever.
It never stops.
Yeah. Right. It never stops. The goal is to just be very clear that you are teaching a skill. And I say this to parents all the time. I'm going to ask you to practice this skill, and you're going to have to go over it 879 times. So just settle in. It's repetitive. You're going to have to go over it over and over and over again. And when we can step back like that, and when we can label something, right? The automatic rejection, the automatic no, the quick response, the stubborn, whatever you want to call it. I had one child, we called it her volcano. Then we don't have to get pulled into the details of it, and you just stay the course. It is hard work. You can feel whatever you want inside. After you do this successfully, you can go upstairs and just like, but stay the course, stay steady, and go after the pattern over and over and over again. That's our job. It's hard. Thanks for listening. And if you found this podcast helpful, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find this information.
And if you'd like to dig deeper on any of these topics, we have specialized playlists on our Spotify profile, and the link is in the show notes. Topics like teens, depression, and OCD. Bye, Lynn.
Bye, Robin. Thank you to Masterclass for sponsoring the show. Right now, our listeners get an additional 15% off any annual membership at masterclass.com/fluster. That's 15% off at masterclass.com/fluster. Masterclass.com/fluster.